Well, hello, it's 6 o'clock and it is Life Co-Pilot time. So we are excited tonight. We've got Scott MacLean, who is Senior Life's Property Solutions, and he can be the easy button for someone. They're trying to get rid of mom or dad's house or trying to downsize or what have you. And it can be such a stressful time. I was just having a conversation with a family right now that's got to move a mom to Chicago next week. So we're working on that and dealing with all the stuff that goes from there. And then Scott and I have worked together in the same thing with this family. With Caring Transitions, we help people get rid of all the stuff and we can move them or what have you. But we don't get rid of the house. So anyway, I want to have Scott introduce himself. Tell me about you and what you do.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. Thanks for having me. Yeah, so my background is primarily 30 years in the senior living space. So worked in all aspects of marketing, management, and in the last 15 years, consulting for senior living communities. So quite a breadth of experience and knowledge in the field of helping seniors with their care and their living. And so um, over the course of that time, I've sat across the table from literally hundreds of families, uh, you know, uh, trying to navigate putting having finding care for their loved one and helping them transition from home into a community. And to see the look of stress on their face is sometimes disheartening, and it really makes your heart go out to them. And so in the last 5 years or so, I started dabbling in some real estate investing and educating myself and partnering with some folks on just learning the ropes, if you will, of investing and buying properties, fixing them up, selling them. And it occurred to me that perhaps I could be come alongside these families who are already under tremendous stress, helping their loved one find appropriate housing and care. But on top of that, they're left with, what do we do with mom's house and all the stuff that she's accumulated for 50 years? And so I thought maybe I could develop a service, a program that could come alongside those families, uh, help them navigate the options, and kind of help hold their hand through that process so they don't feel like they're all alone. So that's where the genesis of Senior Life Property Solutions came. And we started this down this road about 2.5 years ago, Jim. The first time you and I talked was right after I had started, and at the time there was a little bit of wondering if this was really going to scratch where people are itching. And since that time, we've been able to help over 2 dozen families through this process and help them navigate the ropes of selling the house and helping them with the transition to get from home into the community. And I got to tell you, so far the response has been outstanding, and it seems to really be scratching where people are itching.
Well, you mentioned your background was sitting on the other side of the table at the senior living communities and helping people move into there. One of the things that I see with what you provide is if you have some time, okay, if you have some resources that can buy you some time to get out of your house, put it on the market, go through the normal listing process, what have you. That's one thing. But there's a lot of people that don't. I know my mom was in a situation where she was real estate rich and income poor. Okay. And she was in a situation to where within a few days we had to get her into an assisted living situation. And her Social Security was not going to even cover, a fifth of what the rent was going to be, and everything she had as far as assets was tied up in property.
Mhm.
So that was a real challenge. As we were trying to figure that one out. Through that process, and I see that as one of the really nice. I was teasing about an easy button, but that's kind of the same kind of a thing there that you can help people make a much faster, situation.
Yeah, we can. As investors, we have the capacity to come in and offer, a cash offer, where the family doesn't need to clean out the house or clean it up, or go through any of the normal things that you'd be expected to do if you're going to list it on the open market. So there's no showings, no inspections. You don't have to do any repairs. So it really is the easy button for those who would rather not go through that process, and provides a lot of stress relief on the family who would rather not deal with all of that stuff.
Well, it's rather not, or maybe they would rather do all the things, but they don't have the finances to make that happen.
Mhm.
Because you could be in a situation where, mom or dad has to be, a lot of times you go to a hospital and you get into a situation there, and then they either are going to release you, they let you know like at 9 in the morning you're leaving at 11, or same thing over at a rehab place, and now you no longer could go home. You now have to they have to find a location, find a community, and start making payments on that community like in 20 minutes. So how do you do? So it's you know the luxury of putting it on the market for a few months is not there.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I like to say that the cash offer, the quick and easy offer, is suitable for those situations where either the house is in distress, meaning it's really needing a lot of TLC. Maybe it's, cluttered with just a lot of stuff. It's got some deferred maintenance, and it would take a lot to get it market ready. Or maybe the house is okay, but the family is in distress,
Yeah.
and they don't want to go through the hassles of getting it ready for market. And so the cash, or maybe it's both, both the house and the family are in distress. So in those situations, the cash offer can be a great solution. Now, admittedly, they would be selling it at a little bit of a discount by taking that offer, but and so there is a trade-off. You have the convenience, but a discount, but you have to sell it at a discount. But for some people, getting top dollar is sometimes outweighed by the stress relief that they're looking for.
Well, it's like, right now, one of the popular things a lot of people are doing is they're using these open door, those kind of websites where they can sell their house, and they're selling it to some clerk on a computer in Seattle, that's just pushing the buttons for them, that will never meet them, never see them, never do anything. Whereas you're coming into their house, meeting with them, finding out what their real story is, and then trying to find a solution for them that maybe you, maybe not you, but at least they're not dealing with somebody on a computer, in Silicon Valley.
Yeah, and for some people who maybe they have a family member who is tech savvy and they don't mind buying and selling online, or to through an online portal. That may work for some, but others, we found, they really like the fact that we're local. We're a small business. We're in person. We come to the house, meet with the family in person, and we literally hold their hands through the whole process. So it seems to work for a lot of people that we have that hand holding. We can't always guarantee that we're going to be the highest offer, the highest price, but what we can guarantee is that we're going to give them the best service out of all of their options.
Well, one of the things too is like when if you're using one of these other companies that's internet based, what price they give you, and then what the price they actually settle after they've gone into the house and seen what needs to be done, plus all their fees, plus all their discount. It's usually much less than what they tell you it's going to be, because then once they get eyes on it, and they have to hire someone to come in and do that inspection, where you're there in the house with them right there up front, and you can have those conversations about what's there, and really already know what it's about, so you don't have those surprises coming up at the end.
Yeah, the old bait and switch, huh?
Yeah, that's part of
That's
it. Yes, yeah.
pretty common out there. That they'll throw out a number just based on data, from, sources like Zillow and other online data sources, based on averages in the market and so forth, without regard to the actual condition of the house. So they might get someone, like you said, get someone's hopes up and then have a contingency in their contract that says that, after inspecting it, they can renegotiate, which is almost always the case.
Yeah, they're going to come back and have other ideas that are going to be involved in that.
Mhm.
So, what's the primary issues that you find that you solve for your clients? The problems? What's the things that you see most often?
I think it's really the stress relief is the biggest. And then it's the other is just that feeling of being overwhelmed and not knowing where to start. Most people who have homes that have high equity, they're used to getting postcards left and right from people, wanting to buy their house, for cash, and phone calls and text messages and all that. And first thing I say to them is, I'm sure you have this stack of postcards of, investors who've, want to buy your house. And that's great. But the problem is, how do you know which ones in that stack you can trust? Because in every field there are, good players and there's unscrupulous players. And in this situation, it's hard to know, who you can trust, who's out to scam you. And so I think, because we have relationships with the senior living communities, and we have, in some cases, a history of helping of being referred by them and helping their incoming residents. You know, it's a warm handoff, and our reputation is built off of making sure we deliver what we say. Otherwise, our our pipeline of leads and referrals can be shut off very quickly, and word can spread. It's a very small industry, so we do our best to be responsive, and come alongside and be that trusted advisor. So that's, I think, the biggest thing that we're solving, is to be a trusted advisor, to come alongside and help them navigate this process.
Well, one of the things too, by you being here rather than on a keyboard in Seattle, it's like the other players in the industry, who to help them get lined up with and get some extra cares that you don't provide, but that maybe they need, but they don't know that there's resources to get. So you know,
Yeah,
you know,
we have connections with, people in related fields of healthcare and senior services, such as elder law attorneys, uh, transition specialists like yourself, um, home health care, and other such professionals that they may have a need for at some time during this process.
well, it's like right now we're working on a deal that you'd gotten a referral from a community, and then you refer them to me to help them sort, organize, pack, move, unpack, resettle, and then sell off their stuff. And it's been a very complicated one. Okay, I mean it's gotten more and more complicated because I think there's some unscrupulous people around this person. Okay, that we're trying to navigate, and I can't believe all the things I'm involved in right now. I'm talking to, guardianships attorneys. I'm talking to that none of these things relate to what I do, but it's the same kind of thing that you're doing because you're not in Seattle in some distance or this thing. You're actually involved on the street. These different vendors like you need to talk to this person. We need to get this person involved. I was working with the POA, helping them figure out how to get Medicaid waiver for this particular client because she's out of money. So I'm like, these are things that they're not going to get from a realtor, nor I mean, because I've been in the real estate business for a long time. They don't know this stuff. Okay, they know how to sell the house, but they don't know about elder law. They don't know about Medicaid waiver. They don't know, whatever. Whereas that's something
Right.
that you bring to the table because you are actually, first of all, you were in the senior living communities for years, and then now you have a very different knowledge base and a Rolodex, I guess, if we could still use that term.
Yeah, I'd say, first and foremost, like you, Jim, we are advocates for the seniors and their families. So, we want to help protect and guard them from unscrupulous players out there as much as we can. We also want to help connect them with other resources. And if, if the service that, that we provide isn't the best fit for them, we'll let them know and we'll try to connect them with one that fits, that fits better. And we've done that before. So ultimately our reputation and, uh, our caring and compassion and advocacy for them, is more important than getting the business.
Yeah, and it's amazing what all the doors that open up. You go, oh my God, what's behind this door, and how do we fix this? So but yeah.
Yeah, like you, I have a client right now. It's a husband and wife, and they have very little support from family, and they've both been kind of teetering on the edge of being able to live independently for several years now, in and out of the hospital and so forth. And I've been working with them for over 6 months now, to where they're finally both placed in an appropriate senior living setting and in a safer and more stabilized situation. So, um, a lot of most investors and most realtors would not, hang in that long with a potential client, in order to get the business, so to speak. But you know, as I said before, your heart goes out to them, especially when they don't, you know, uh, have the support that others do, and so we jump in and we try to help them as much as we can.
I just you and I had these conversations earlier. I know that for you, when you got into this whole thing, you did not have any real estate background per se, and then now you've gone out and bit the bullet and got a license too. It's so, and we talked about the pros and cons of that before this all came about. So what is it that you feel like that you've been able to bring to the table with that?
Yeah, so what I found was, Jim, coming into it just wearing my investor's hat, I still felt the obligation to show people the options, different options to sell their house, including a cash offer, but also here's what the numbers might look like if you decide to list it on the market through a realtor. And so, once we talk about the pros and cons of those options, if they choose the one with, to list it on the market, because I wasn't a realtor, I would then have to try to connect them with a realtor who I knew, who I knew would take good care of them. The problem I found with that is that they had developed a relationship with me, and they weren't as interested in working with somebody else that I connected them to in this situation. And so oftentimes they would, kind of fall off the vine or go find a realtor, through a friend or family. And, I wouldn't have a chance to kind of see that through. So I felt like if by getting my license myself, that I can now wear one of two hats, where if they want to list it, I can be their realtor. If they want to sell it, I could put on my investor hat and offer to buy it, the easy button. So in this case, I can kind of maintain that continuity with them and help see it through. But it also gives them a way to make an informed decision on what's best for them. So we run the numbers on all, not just those two options, but others as needed. And by doing so, they're able to make an informed decision, and we can kind of follow through on providing that solution that's customized for their care, for their needs.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, we talked about it because I'd been in that business since the earth was cooling, and for about a dozen years I was managing 14 Remax offices all across the state, from actually literally all across the state. So about 350 agents. I don't know what it would cost to make me do that again, but a lot more than I was getting paid before. I'll tell you that. That's a lot of work. Um, so what do you see as your biggest difference between you and other realtors and investors? I mean, I think I know, but what do you think?
I'd say two things, Jim. One is my background in senior living. There's very few, realtors or investors who have the background of senior living and senior services that I do. So that's something that I bring to the table that's unique. And secondly is because I wear both hats or either or hat, um, I have a broader uh, view and approach to solving their problem. Investors, if you're just an investor, you tend to think the cash offer is the one and only. You try to fit that peg into whatever hole you're left with, whether it's round or square. Same with realtors. Many realtors, will just approach assuming that the best and only way for everyone to sell their house is to fix it up and sell it on the market and go through that whole process with inspections and showings and all of that, when in fact uh, selling your house is not a one size fits all. And so by having that more broad spectrum of um, abilities, we can customize the solution to what's best for them and not uh, just what my peg fits into that hole.
Well, that's just one of the things that I've tried to explain to realtors even for years as I was coaching them is that that one of the reasons that realtors are necessary, or someone like yourself, is that there are no two houses exactly the same. I mean, you may have them by the same builder, built the same year on the same street and the same floor plan, but they have different views. One has drainage issues, one doesn't. One has, foundation cracks, one doesn't. One has, whatever it is. There's different nuances of each one of those houses that each will impact the value of that house and the saleability of it and everything else. So.
Yeah, and I failed to mention I'm also a property manager, and so some people may want to hold on to the house and just rent it out and receive residual income, and so that's a kind of a third hat that I wear, and can offer that and even more solutions to people's situation. There is no one size fits all to every situation, and that's, I guess, what I think sets us apart is that we come into the situation, uh, asking a lot of questions and trying to understand their situation as well as their preferences and their needs. Some people may have plenty of money set aside to be able to pay for their care until their house, sells in 6 months or whatever. I've had others that needed the cash from their house, within 2 weeks in order to move in and pay their first month's rent for assisted living. And so, uh, that requires a different approach and a different solution than the other. And so, that's the beauty of our approach.
Well, it's like, I have these conversations with our clients all the time. I'm going, if you want to get the most retail for all of your individual items, the best way to do it is do it yourself. Don't pay a third party like myself or any of my competitors. Do it yourself through Facebook Marketplace, eBay, or Nextdoor. Now, it will take you months to get this done, okay? And you're going to have to answer the door with all kinds of strangers coming throughout whatever. I go, what we bring to the table is we're in and out in 10 days, okay? And, we're going to get you the most we can in those 10 days, but in 10 days, your house will be able to sell, or whatever, so there are trade-offs, if
There's
somebody needs
trade-offs. Yep.
their house in 2 weeks, or they need their money in 2 weeks, they may not get as much as if they let it sit on the market for 6 months or 3 months, but they need the money now. And so it's actually more valuable to them to have the money now than, so it all comes down to what solves what problem.
Yep.
So what Okay, you've been in the business now for a couple 2.5 years. So what kind of feedback are you getting from your clients?
Oh, wow. Well, for upon completion of each transaction, we send just a brief client feedback survey, and it's been overwhelmingly positive. And we pride ourselves not only on finding the right solution, but following through with the customer service. And I'd say our commitment to great communication, to kind of let them know what's next steps, because frankly, a lot of people haven't bought or sold a house in 30 plus years. And so, it's and the world has changed since they did last go through that. And so we do, like I said, hold their hand and let them know what the next steps are, and then guide them through the whole process, and communicate all along the way. Not every transaction goes without a hitch, but we promise that if and when a hitch arises, we handle it. We handle it quickly, and we resolve it as quickly as possible for them or with them. So the response has been great, not only from the seniors, but from their families, especially because like I said, a lot of the stress lands on their plate, and they're trying to help mom with all of her issues. They may have, teenage or college or young adult kids that they're trying to help as well, dealing with kind of the sandwich generation there. And so their lives are busy. And so for us to come along and provide almost a one-stop shop, or a kind of a seamless process, even from the sense of bringing someone like yourself into the picture, Jim, to help with the move. We don't actually move people ourselves, but we bring in a professional move manager, such as Caring Transitions and others, to do that, to manage that process. And so they don't have to go out shopping or wonder how that's all going to get done. We bring in a trusted partner to provide that for them, and they're so thankful for that, and grateful for us providing it.
I wasn't aware that you guys did rentals as well. You really are kind of a glutton for punishment, but that's something. But it does make a really nice bridge of different options you can bring to people, which is phenomenal. But that does bring its own set of challenges to deal with that part of it. So yeah.
Yeah, and there are situations that we don't feel like we can do a situation justice. For example, there are some houses that are needing like total gut, totally gutted. And just where I'm at and my partners are at, we don't feel like we're the best solution for taking that type of project under. And so, but we do have a network of other investors that we know that are reputable, and that swim in different waters than we do, for per se, to where we can bring on someone who maybe specializes in those types of things, and bring those people to the table, make the introduction, make the handoff, and then we still remain involved to facilitate the transaction all the way to the end. And in those situations, we would get a referral fee from that third party for bringing them to the table, but it would come from them and not from the seller.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, and you were bringing a comment, if someone hasn't bought a home or sold a home in 30 years, that how confusing it can be. Well, if they haven't, I'll go further. If nobody's done one in the last year, all the rules have completely changed, So, because I
Yeah,
know
for sure.
a lot of people get real upset when they want a realtor to show them a house, and the realtor goes, I cannot talk to you until you sign a buyer's agreement, buyer's agency. Well, that's now federal law. So, but in Indiana law and federal law, it's not the realtor being a jerk. It's they're having to play by new rules that just literally, I think it was July 1st last year they kicked in. So
Yeah, it's been about a year. The
yeah.
landscape has really changed.
Yeah. So,
And the
yeah.
market changes, all the time, as well.
Mhm.
It's been a seller's market, for the last several years in Indiana. It's now balancing out a little bit. In some parts of the country, it's totally switched to a buyer's market. And so, just kind of keeping our finger on the pulse of that, um, you where the average person is, not paying as close attention to those trends as we are.
Right. Well, what kind of new things do you see on the horizon for where you're going with all this?
Well, we're positioning ourselves to grow, Jim. I mentioned wearing hats. I've been kind of a solopreneur here for this first stage of the business, and it's gone so well that I'm literally chasing a tiger by the tail, and so we're positioning ourselves to grow. We're bringing on a full-time operations manager here next month, and so gonna trying to build our team intentionally to be able to serve more clients and provide a more robust um, experience for our customers. Um, you know, I love working on the side, I call it the acquisition side, where I'm networking with the senior communities and meeting in person with the families, evaluating their options with them and kind of working on that side of things. Once we acquire a property, currently I'm also having to work with our contractors, you know, selecting the fixtures and the finishes and the colors and all that, which frankly is not a gift of mine. And so we're bringing on some more horsepower, if you will, to be able to kind of handle the back room type stuff, with the closings and getting utilities, on and off, and a lot of the disposition side of things. I'm actually looking forward to being able to pass off to others so I can kind of stick with the things that I enjoy and that I'm good at and that seem to be more in line with my strengths, which is the customers and the relationships with the senior living communities.
Well, very good. Well, Scott, thank you for coming and sharing this with us. I think it could be, like I said, I know that when we went through this with our mom, we were like in panic mode. How do we,
Yeah.
get her into this place on Monday? That type of thing. So it's nice to know there's somebody there you can do a quick handoff, and there are solutions out there. It may not be the solution for everybody, but it could be the solution that somebody needs. So it's just helping get people get through that process. So
Yeah, and just as kind of a closing thought, you know, we provide these analytical services, if you will, or consultative services of going through the options, running the numbers with folks, you know, at no cost or obligation to them. And so, even if a person is just curious to want to see what the value of my house is, if I were to, want to sell it, we're happy to, come in and provide that at no cost or obligation. We only get paid if they decide to sell to us or sell through us. And in that case, we only get paid if we deliver the results that put money in their pocket.
And with somebody like you, they can go and say, here's what it would list for. I think it would sell in this range. Okay. Here's
Mhm.
what you could get a cash buyout right now for. So they would have that number right in front of them to go, okay, is this value for me here to do this? Okay.
Yeah.
And then I guess you could even create an ongoing income stream for them if they need to rent it out. So.
Yeah. Yep. And we have other options too that too complicated to go into on this call.
Okay. Well, hey, thanks so much for being here. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Jim.
I'll probably see you in about a week. All right. Take care.
Absolutely. It's
All
a
righty.
pleasure. Take
Bye
care.
bye.